They say you need to hook people in the first 30 seconds. Swallow a sword, breathe fire, do a backflip in front of the camera. I don't really like doing all this, and I am really tired of all this YouTube nonsense. I'd rather tell you about a new arrival in my museum. Today, we are celebrating something very, very important. I think this is a turning point of the evolution of the Museum of Glasses. I finally own one of the most incredible pairs ever created by Alain Mikli. Some people might say these glasses are strange, even ugly, but I think they are incredible. I spent a long time choosing which pair of Alain Mikli glasses to buy, and finally I decided to buy these asymmetrical glasses. I've always loved them. I remember seeing them in old magazine editorials. I even have them on my mood board. Let me show you here. There was a bit of confusion with the models. I will explain that later. But for now, let's take a closer look at my new super pooper asymmetrical Alain Mikli sunglasses. When I bought these glasses, I didn't know that this asymmetrical model was released more than once in different years. They all looked quite similar. They all were incredible and they all were quite expensive. I had been watching them for a long time and I had several pairs saved in my wish list, but the prices were high and I just couldn't bring myself to buy them. And then one day I saw these glasses. They were listed for $400, which was suspiciously low for this model. I immediately added them to my wish list. But I knew they wouldn't stay in my wish list for long. Someone would buy them. So I had to decide what to do quickly. By the way, they were relatively inexpensive because they still had prescription lenses from their previous owner. You know, sellers very often lower the price because of these imperfections. And honestly, I never miss opportunities like this. I always replace lenses anyway, so for me, it's the perfect deal. I absolutely love finding deals like this. So the glasses were in my wish list, and for a few days, I kept going back to these glasses, not knowing what to do. You know, $400 felt like a lot of money, especially with shipping and taxes on top. And I always struggle with these calculations because I convert everything into lessons. I literally calculate how many lessons I have to teach to afford a pair of glasses. And these glasses were about 30 lessons plus shipping plus tax. So it felt like a lot of money. So I hesitated, and then I finally decided to gather the courage to message the seller. And this is what our conversation looked like. You can see that this happened at night at 1 a.m. Apparently, that's when courage comes to me. And I really liked the seller's reply. He said that he supports collectors, especially Mikli collectors. I thought that was very cool. And here you can see the final amount that I paid, $372, including shipping and taxes, which for me is about 23 hours of teaching Russian. The glasses were in the United States, and at first They were sent to my friend who lives in New York, and then she brought them to me in Istanbul, and I'm very, very grateful for her help. The glasses arrived in very good condition, and I immediately noticed how comfortable they were. You see, they even have spring hinges, which makes them very comfortable and sit perfectly on the face. Um, you know, they are very interesting. They are not nice, but they look incredible. Look at them. I think these glasses were a kind of revolution in the eyewear world. I think they look absolutely incredible, amazing. Look at them. I was very happy to receive these glasses, but then I noticed something here on the temple. Look, I noticed this address you see here, www.mikli.com. And you know, when I bought them, for some reason, I didn't pay attention to that detail, or maybe it wasn't even visible in that listing. I don't really remember. I just remember that I read that they were vintage sunglasses, and that's all. So I trusted it and I bought them. In most listings I had seen, these glasses were described as 80s glasses. So, to be honest, I really believed I was buying a pair from the 80s. So, when I noticed this website address, I started thinking that these glasses couldn't be from the 80s. Did websites even exist in the early 80s? No, websites didn't exist in the early 80s, no. And that's when the confusion began for me. I started researching and trying to understand the Picasso models. In one of the sources, I read that the Picasso design was produced between 1977 and 1989 in different color variations. But then I came across something more specific. Let me show you. On the temple of one of the Picasso glasses, I noticed this inscription: Creation Original 1982, which suggests that this particular design dates back to 1982. And this is supported by this photograph from a June 1983 issue of Vogue US magazine. And also, this is supported by this post of Alain Mikli on Facebook. And that's when I realized that my pair had to be from a later period. So I began comparing different versions of these glasses more carefully, and I noticed something. In the early designs, the triangles are bigger and the angles are much sharper. The geometry of the early designs is much more aggressive, and the later versions, like mine, are slightly smaller and more rounded in shape. Then I discovered that the Picasso glasses were released again for their 30th anniversary, which means that my glasses belong to that later reinterpretation, most likely around 2008, as this is the year mentioned in most sources. At first, I felt a bit disappointed, but then I realized that I actually made a really good purchase because the 2008 collection is also highly valued, and these pieces can be quite expensive. For example, take a look at this. you can see a lot of listings like this. And that's when everything started to make sense. What's interesting though is that many sellers list these later versions as the original pieces from the 80s. Let me show you. This one, for example. There is also another detail, this marking of European conformity, this CE. I think it only appeared in the early 90s. I think after 1993, the seller listed these glasses as a model from 1980, even though there is a website address on the temple and the marking of the European conformity. I don't know, maybe they don't know it themselves. So please be careful with these Miklis. I absolutely don't regret, and now my goal is to buy another pair from the 80s, and I already know how to do it. I researched everything about the Picasso design, and I'm absolutely ready now for this new purchase. This was Tatiana and the Museum of Glasses. I'm always happy to have you here. See you in my new episode. Bye.